want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good day, Mad Men Mafia.
I am Kirkin Samuels.
And I still am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you. Right here.
For y'all,
Healthy
man.
Masculinity. What month is it? Is that time?
This is June, man. This is June. You know, I don't know if I don't know how long this has been the case. We were talking about this around the house the other day, but it seems like it may be fairly new-ish. But in any case, it's definitely important that June is, mental health month, men's mental health month, man. And I mean, I think every month is men's mental health month. It should be, but maybe this is an opportunity where we pause for the cause and we just talk about the stuff that goes up in here for dudes.
Yeah, it was interesting because I'm not sure if it was always Men's Mental Health Month or if it was just Men's Health Month, and then we realized as men collectively or whatnot that we needed to work on the mentals more because there's so much going on. I mean, you made that post. I'll let you talk about it, but lots of men are taking themselves out because of their mental health.
Dude, I saw it come across my timeline and I just kind of reshared it. And I don't know that it's the case in terms of I didn't look up the data myself. But the post said that the number one cause of death for men is not sickness, but it is suicide. And that's alarming. If not scary, if that's the case, man. But I would not be surprised at all if that was the case.
Yeah, it looked like you said something like the number one cause of death for men 18 to 50 is self-cancellation and not heart disease, and which I guess for us that means maybe we made it over the cusp. But mental health is really the main reason, and of course, one of the reasons we do this show is that so much is out there against men or making life harder for men or making it such a challenge. I mean, life's hard enough. It's a challenge anyway. And as men, we're taught to suck it up and not confess or not talk about or not go deep about what it is we feel on the inside or what our mind's doing to us or what our mentals are doing. And so it makes sense why a lot of guys, what's the statistics, 2,000 a day, something like that, taking themselves out. It makes sense when you really take that higher level view. Why? Because there's not a lot of support. I think we did the research before. There was one battered men's shelter where there's like 2,000 ladies battered shelters, and I get it. Ladies are the weaker sex, the smaller generally, and so they tend to get the brunt of the abuse when it comes to domestic abuse. But there's not a lot of we talk so much about the feminine equality movement, but there's not a lot of masculine equality. We don't see a lot on the other side, and it's kind of the deck is stacked against us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, man. Obviously in that example that you just brought up, anyway, physical abuse goes in. It's not specifically limited to one gender, and I think today in our times, as women are being pushed to be more aggressive. As women are being pushed to be more assertive, to be more domineering, to be more equal, to be more equal with men, in ways that are not feminine. That's one of the ways that it manifests, where there's a level of anger that comes out physically, and I say all that just leading up to the notion that when a woman acts out against a man, we have limited recourse and limited just limited consideration, limited sympathy in our culture for all of those kinds of things. Men are, young boys are told not to put their hands on girls Girls aren't told the same thing to boys, so they don't grow up with the messaging that that's wrong. And so again, when that things like that are just why men struggle with a lot of things in our culture. And that age range that you talked about is when men are kind of making that transition, that transition to responsibility, that transition, to the low to mid-level careers, possibly trying to advance their who they are, and quite honestly find their identity. And it's really hard to find your identity when most of us were raised by women. And and so, yeah, we find ourselves in between a rock and a hard place as males today. We're men, but nobody told us when we became a man. Matter of fact, nobody told us what it meant to be a man. And so we're having to figure these things out as we walk through the minefield that is masculinity.
Yeah, I mean, even to your point of the boys are taught how to treat women, women are not taught how to, or little girls not taught how to treat men. And one of the biggest issues that I see now, and I keep hearing it, and it's starting to come out even in a lot of the like just pearly things, and a lot of these ladies are starting to kind of push back on the feminist narrative, is that they want all the benefits without any of the responsibility. And for every man and every little boy, one of the reasons that we are a little more respectful when it comes to personal space. We're a little more respectful when it comes to putting each other's, hands on each other, and little more considerate around violence, because for every man, every little boy, there is that line, and if you cross it, it's going to turn to violence. The problem is most ladies, especially little girls, they're not taught that. They're taught that they can do whatever they want, and now, be masculine. So act in a masculine fashion, but you don't have the responsibility or the consequences that most men have when it comes to being a man and acting out of their masculine. There is a line that every man has, and if you cross it, you get punched in the mouth. That's not really the same for ladies, and so you can understand why, if they don't have that stopgap, if they don't have the consequences, but they're acting in the same way, it comes out sideways. And so for Men's Mental Health Month, especially for the ladies, understand your man may not respond physically if you attack him, but what you're doing to him is attacking him emotionally, you're attacking him mentally, and you're just killing him on the inside. Because if you were a dude, he would just smack you back. There'd be a fight, there'd be some physical altercation. He's not allowed to do that. And in most cases, especially with the statistics nowadays, because of divorces and domestic violence statistics and everything else, most women are more abusive because there's no repercussions. And as a matter of fact, the court system and the legal system is on ladies' side. So men have no recourse. So when you have those arguments in relationships, when you have those fights, if it gets physical, the man is behind the 8 ball. He's the one that's going to get arrested, even if he didn't do anything. Even if he didn't protect himself, even if you hit him over the head with a skillet, he's the one going to jail. So these are the things that make men listless and kind of nihilistic, because they don't see any benefit for them. They don't see any outcome that works in their favor. It's all scaled against them.
You brought up the court system, and here's a prime example. If a man finds himself in family support court, um, or family court, period, with a custody battle, custody conflict, whatever it is, custody case, whatever word you want to use, and most of the time that's in the context of divorce, not always, but most of the time it is, statistically speaking. Uh, the courts will fight battles for women that won't fight for men. Prime example being child support is child support is a function of the family support registry. And so when he doesn't pay child support, she doesn't have to do anything for the courts to come after him in any and all means possible to collect. Now, in reverse, let's say that the other side of the coin with child support, let's say it's custody. If he wants to be part of his kid's life, um, there's not the same proactive arm of a court system that will fight for his right to be a father, in the same way that it fights for her right to financially provide for her kids. If he can't see if she says you can't see your son or daughter, he has to go through the court system. He has to hire a lawyer, and go through all the legal loopholes, the legal challenges, whatever it is, to file for, a hearing, and he has to prove his case. Our friend David Passara has the whole thing on, here's what to tell a judge, here's what you have to document, here's the things you have to be able to articulate, all these other kind of things. The reason David needs to say that is because the chips are stacked against the man, and if he just walks in saying, I want to be in my kid's life, that's not enough. And so, that's one example of, how I'm pretty sure somebody got triggered when you said the court systems. And so, having been through that process, multiple times in my life, I can tell you that, the chips are stacked against men in a whole lot of ways. And so we do have challenges that society doesn't help us fight, that society doesn't help us through. And so we have to work through a lot of things on our own, without a support system from just culture in general. And those things end up being manifested in some very violent ways. If you think about, all of the, think about the random, mass damage, mass carnage situation, lone gunman. If you hear lone gunman, even in the term itself, lone gunman, it's lone gun man. There's no such term as lone gun woman. I mean, because, men go inside with these battles, and when it comes out, because we don't have that support structure, generally speaking, it comes out in some very violent and dangerous ways in society, because the world becomes the enemy to him, because the world was never a support structure to him. And so we as men fight a lot of things in silent, without help, that women, fight openly, because they do have help.
Yeah, I mean, we're just taught to suck it up, and that to express or to vent is weak and weakness. And so the things we need to do to release that energy, to vent, to process, to um, let some of that anger and fear and doubt and self-judgment, and I mean all the things that we tend to soothe with alcohol and drugs and porn and staying busy and workaholism and all those different things. Those are the things that if we were taught or it was made okay for us to express, maybe we would have more guys here. We wouldn't lose 2,000 a day. It's just that
Mhm.
there doesn't seem to be a platform for most men, and we're not taught. So many men now have been taught this romantic idealism of women, and it's just not true, especially after the feminist movement. Most men are romantic idealists, and they think they're going to ride off in the sunset with their honey, and she's going to love him forever. And then he finds out pretty quickly that's not the case. And then usually she gets bored, or she gets, her feelings or her happiness is threatened. And so then she takes him to court, takes his kids, takes half his money. He gets kicked out of the house he paid for. He gets no visitation rights to his kids unless he does his due diligence, like you said, and comes with a stack of papers and a lawyer and whatnot to fight for his own rights. And then you wonder why men are battling with their mental health. And so we're very thankful that there is some, even though it's been co-opted with Pride Month and all these other things, we're very happy that there is at least a men's mental health month, and there is a time for us to actually talk about this and to bring it up. And speaking of bringing it up, it's probably time for us to take that first break.
Mhm.
We're the Mad Men of Masculinity. We're on KLDC. We'll be right back.
Dude, even to talk about a lot of these things, man, the stigma that even comes along with, and maybe this is worth bringing up for the radio air, but the stigma of all of this stuff is, you know is, well, you just being weak, you
Yeah.
whining, we, for us to talk about our problems from a society perspective, it comes across as whining. It comes across
Yeah.
as, to your point, now you should just be sucking it up and taking it. And it's like, at
Yeah.
some point, us as human beings, man, we can only take, quote unquote, so much. And you
Yeah.
don't hear suck it up and take it to women.
Mm-mm.
Um, and so, man, a lot of this stuff, man, guys just struggle with, man, and we don't talk about these things openly, man. And it I'm telling you, man, the battle inside pales. I mean, I'll say not even pales, but it outweighs the battle on the outside.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, and we hear so much, and a lot of ladies meaning well say, "Oh no, you need to express, you need to tell me your problems." But then a lot of times they don't like what we say, they don't like what we, and they don't like how it makes them feel, and then they lash out because they don't like how it makes them feel what we express. And so as a pragmatic man, we go, "Oh, well that she didn't like that, so I'm not going to do that again." And so I mean, we'll talk about this more on air, but yeah, we've got to
Yeah.
have we got to be proactive about our mental health and start at teenage years and start training these boys
Yeah.
how to take care of themselves.
If y'all don't know, we are recording our over the air radio show right now, 12:20 a.m. in the Mile High City. KLDC, and so we just come on here while we're recording this once weekly. We go ahead and stream this thing and record it. We put it on Facebook, we put it on YouTube, and all that kind of stuff. We give you the opportunity to hear it before it comes out over there. So don't be a chump. Just hit the like button. It don't cost you nothing. I mean, not even a whole calorie. It doesn't even cost you a calorie to hit the button, man. But when you do that, it helps the algorithms say that, hey, people want to watch this, and it shows more people. Y'all know how the algorithm works. Everything you watch online, people ask you to like and subscribe, and that's why. And this is a conversation above any that needs to be liked and subscribed and forwarded and shared and all those kind of things.
Yeah,
So
definitely
anyhow,
share. All right, you ready to come
let's
back?
get into it. Yeah, we're back.
Yes, we're back.
We are back. Your boys, Madmen of Masculinity, KLDC, 12:20 a.m., Mile High City. I am Kirk M. Samuels, the guy next to me, virtually and real in real life, even on the golf course, is Jason B. Kendrick. And we are the Madmen of Masculinity. Again, we're talking about, and we just, as we record this, we just had Father's Day. And maybe that's where the whole idea of men's mental health month comes in. I don't know. Maybe that's the connection. But either way, it's important to talk about some stuff, man. It's important for guys to talk about some stuff. When we talk about things, it takes away some of the darkness and the shadows. I've learned that in my life. Um, but the other flip side about talking about things is there can be a stigma. There can be a
Mhm.
stigma behind saying, hey, I'm hurting. Hey, I'm weak. Hey, I'm about to break. Hey, I'm afraid. Hey, whatever it is. And so us as men, we got to balance that, and we got to be able to say, like, okay, I don't care what people think. I need to get this out, because if I don't get it out in a healthy way, it's going to come out in a destructive way, and it's going to be some kind of explosion.
Yeah, and we hear so much, and I know it comes from a well-meaning place. A lot of ladies with their men are like, "No, I want you to express. I want you to share your feelings. I want you to tell me when you're hurt." Except the problem is, most ladies, the vast majority, were not taught how to treat a man or how to sit with a man in his pain, and so they're not prepared. They don't have the tools, and when he shares his pain, he shares what he's struggling with, and that's a man's burden. That's not a lady's burden. So she doesn't have the tools or even the makeup to deal with that. A lot of times the response the man gets is not favorable to his mental health. It's not favorable to him healing or really truly dealing with what he's going through. A lot of times we get even punished from our ladies because when we express, they don't like how it makes them feel to hear how we're struggling and how so much this internal trauma is going on with us that they can't see on the outside. And so they feel a certain kind of way. And because they feel a certain kind of way, they don't like that feeling. A lot of times they tend to reflect that back with anger or judgment or something. And so most men are pragmatic. We're just logical thinkers. We're linear thinkers. And we go, oh, well, A plus B equals C. I express, she got mad. I'm not going to do that again. And so that's another issue that, especially nowadays, since most of us, but coming, up to the third generation now, were raised by single mothers or mostly feminine, household without a healthy masculine influence or without a group of guys around us. We need to start turning this ship around by starting to educate teenage boys. As soon as they start hitting puberty, we got to start educating them about masculinity, how to express, where to express, how to be healthy mentally and physically, how to create a balanced, healthy life as a man so that we don't lose 2,000 of a day. so that we don't lose so many amazing men because they don't see any outlets and they're told all their life, don't express, don't be weak, don't let it, don't show your feelings because that makes you weak. But just like any other human being, just like all the ladies, if we don't express, if we don't get the energy out, then we either explode or implode. And either way, that takes a man out.
Yeah, the reality is, in my firm belief, women in our culture are not equipped to sit with a man in his pain. I think Brene Brown even talked about this a little bit. To sit with a man in his pain and to have him vent, and to not react or respond to his venting. I think that's the big thing, with a man's safety. Men don't feel safe to vent to women, and specifically to women in their lives, because the overwhelming impression is you really don't want to know what I like. Trust me, you don't want to know what I struggle with. Like you can't handle it. You don't want the smoke. And if I were to express to this is the internal dialogue that excuse me, that men might have in terms of the women in his life or the women in his immediate circle. Is if I told you everything that I'm thinking, sometimes he says nothing because there really is nothing that he's thinking. Sometimes there's nothing because you can't handle the truth. That's our whole intro. And it's like, you don't really want to know what I'm thinking right now. I mean, and if he expresses, she has to have the ability to literally listen without response, like listen without reaction, without response. And that is not something that women are generally gifted with. Um, which, unfortunately for men, we get caught in that rock and that hard place. But that's also why it's important for men to have other men in their life who can listen, who not be judgmental, who they can be vulnerable with, and be safe with, just with all the things that they struggle with.
Yeah, I mean, ladies, it's a joke, but it kind of shows the pattern. There's a TikTok trend going on where there's guys saying, "Oh, I know what men can do that women can't do," and then the dude stands there quiet for like a minute, and the girl freaks out. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is this? I stand like this, do like that, and can't shut up. And so, it's funny. It's a joke, but it shows the reality of things. And ironically, what men need from their women in relationships, especially when they're struggling, is the same thing women ask from us. I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen. I just need to process. When you actually ask a man to share and ask him to unload what he's thinking and feeling, he needs you just to listen. He doesn't need solutions. He can figure it out. Just like you can figure out your own solutions. He doesn't need you to fix it. He needs you to be able to be stable and quiet and understanding. But that's not what we tend to get because our ladies love you to death, are emotionally driven. And when you hear especially if you love him, it's going to affect you. When he tells you and actually is honest about what's going on internally, what he's battling with, the things he's not sharing with you, and he actually tells you, I've never seen it go very well because it does affect you as a woman, usually very emotionally. And then that gets turned back on him. Either you cry or you get angry or some other emotional reaction. And then he wants to fix you. So now, once again, it goes from him expressing and trying to heal to him trying to heal you and support you because he's a man. And so we're not saying don't do these things. We're saying make sure you have the training, make sure you have the know-how. And if you don't, get him a therapist, get him a men's group, get him around other guys who can do that, because there are certain things that men can't do for their ladies, and there are certain things ladies can't do for their men unless they have proper training. And so for Men's Mental Health Month, for the health of your man in your life, make sure he has an outlet, because emotion equals energy in motion. And if that energy doesn't have motion, if it doesn't move, it gets stuck and stagnant, it causes sickness, it causes cancer, and then it will take him out.
Yeah. I don't believe that it's intentional, when for a woman to respond or react when a man really opens up to her. I believe that women have a tendency to internalize, and to right, wrong, or indifferent, to internalize to the point of, well, what am I doing or not doing? What could I be doing? What should I be doing? And all those kinds of things. And I believe that some of that comes out of her concern, genuinely speaking, if she has concern for her man. How that manifests, though, is that, man, I can't tell you nothing without you making it about you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that's how it comes off to us. Where I'm talking to you about me, and all of a sudden it becomes about you.
Yep.
I can't just tell you something that I'm thinking or feeling without it, without somehow this conversation turning into how I said it and whatever the tone I said it and the words that I use and all that kind of stuff because it taps into your insecurities. I mean, these are just the realities of the situation, right? That's just the stuff that happens, and so. But I don't believe that that comes from a bad place per se. I think women just have a tendency to internalize. Again, this is why it's incumbent upon her to either develop the skill, to learn the skill, go find out how to find out how to listen to man, or get him into places, or make it okay for him to be in places with other good men, whatever that looks like. If he has golf buddies, there's a lot of yucking and all that kind of stuff on the golf course, a lot of, smack talking and a lot of whatever, but that could be a great place for him to be, out there and get it out. If he has a men's group, if he has a men's summit that he wants to attend, and whatever it is, get him, make it safe, encourage him to be out, a sports team. I don't know, whatever that is, but someplace healthy. Get him around a place where him and other men can share some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, back to your quote on Brene Brown. I mean, if you're wanting to help support your man, read Men, Women, and Worthiness, her book. Um, One of the quotes that she talked about in there was, there's a wife and three daughters that went to get her book signed, and then the husband walks up and says, I love the work you're doing. Do you work with men? She's like, no, I don't. He's like, well, that's convenient. And she's like, why? He's like, well, because those three, ladies you just signed those book for are harder on me than anybody else. They'd rather see me die on top of my white horse than ever show weakness. And she also says, show me a woman who can sit with a man in his pain, and I'll show you a woman who's done the inner work, that's done the work and knows how to be stable and foundational and be able to hold space without being reactionary. Just like us men have to learn how to hold space for our ladies and not try to fix and not be reactionary and not, we have to learn these skills of how to respond appropriately so they don't make it worse. And unfortunately, ladies haven't really gotten that education. A lot of men have, their mothers try to raise them as good young men, and this is how you treat a woman and be a good little boy and all those things. They didn't necessarily get the best masculine influences a lot of the times, or they didn't get the best training that way, but they know how to be nice to women. They know how to treat women. They know how to kowtow and do those things. But what we see is the transverse with the ladies. They don't have the training how to treat men. They get told, they're the princess, they're the prize, and they don't have to do anything. And so this dichotomy and it's creating a great rift between men and women, especially in the West, about healthy relationships, healthy relating. And a lot of these things, one of the reasons that we have Men's Mental Health Month and we have so many men taking themselves out is because one of the prime core purposes of men is to be the provider and caretaker and protector of his woman, of his family. He needs something greater than himself, like a family, a career, a business, something greater than himself to provide for, to protect, to do those things for. And when those things are taken away because of the feminist movement, you don't need men, you do it all yourself. Well, more power to you. But now men have lost their main job. And so that is degrading their mental health and their physical health at the same time and taking a lot of them out. And so for men now, we have to take advantage of this time. We have to take it a very conscious step forward to prioritize their mental health, get around other men who understand, who are going through the same things. Because I guarantee you, every guy thinks he's an island. He thinks he's alone. He's the only one dealing with it. But you get through a group of guys and you realize that's the most populated island on earth because every guy is dealing with the same thing. And once you get in a room of guys and you start talking about this and you start opening up, you realize every man deals with this. You're not alone. And the more you realize that you're not alone, the easier it is to deal with. And speaking of dealing with it, time for us to deal with that break. We'll be right back. We're the Mad Men of Masculinity, and this is KLDC. Boom.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. When when we find as men, when we find a safe place, we tend to want to go there.
Mm.
We tend to
Oh
want to
yeah.
be there. Um, and I don't know that our homes are always the safest place for us. And so, how sad of a narrative is it for men to not want to be home or go home because it's not a safe place? Home
Well, I
should
mean,
be the
like when we did,
safest place.
yeah, you would think. I mean, it's like when we did the reactions to Dax's music video to "Be a Man." It was the opening of that video is the guy sitting in his car after work and crying and getting the emotions out and basically getting ready to go in the house. And so many of I've done similar things, sitting on the patio swing, having a drink and a cigarette, going, okay, I got to shift gears. I got to get into family mode. And so having those outlets and having some place to go and having some place where you can, and a healthy place, not the bar, not the strip club, but a healthy place where you can go and make that shift and vent and get those emotions out and get that energy flowing is much better. Plus, I mean, just pragmatically, man, your ladies, for the most part, that's not their responsibility. As a provider, as a protector, as the one that's supposed to be leading the home, you have to make arrangements. You have to make a plan for your own mental health so that it doesn't get put on them. Because a lot of times you put it on them, it doesn't go so well, like Kirk was saying.
Yeah, we got to find ways to put on our air mask, um, so that we can breathe and provide for those around us. And it sounds selfish to some degree. Um, it can come off selfish, but it's for the good of all. And so
Yeah, we'll talk.
we got to be able to do that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I mean, selfishness is just sense of self. You got to know what you need to be healthy so that you can be the best version of yourself. But we'll talk about it in a second. Yes, we're back.
Mm-hmm.
Back
Mm-hmm.
again.
We are Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Maha City and on the interwebs everywhere,
Everywhere.
madmenradio.com. You can check
Mm,
us out, all your favorite podcast outlets, YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, man. We ain't hard to find, a la Coach Prime. We pretty easy to
mm,
find too. And pretty accessible. I had a guy, just a random guy. Matter of fact, I need to text him. We had a conversation. Some young guy out in Florida, man, just called me or texted me or something, and I must have said my phone number on one of the episodes, and he just
it's on
called,
your
and
website.
yeah, that's right, it is. And so we just talk, man. A young guy, and I asked him if we can keep in touch. And so, man, we're not some far off aloof folks, man. Holler at your boys, man. We'll reach out to you and won't even, probably won't even send you a bill. I don't know
No.
about Jason, but I won't send you a bill.
No, you gotta buy.
So we
You
love
gotta
this
want
stuff.
something more than that. Well, and speaking of, if
Yeah.
you're looking for a group, if you want to get around good guys, if you need some support or you just want to, hone your masculine muscle, you want to hone that blade, come to the B Men Summit. Come to the Men's Summit, August 23rd, 2025, Parker, Colorado, at the schoolhouse. I'll put the link in the comments there. You can get your tickets. Tickets went on sale yesterday, and we're gonna fill up the place. There's a bunch of
Mhm.
testimonials, so you can see guys who went to last year, but it's a great opportunity to come in, get around other guys, network, create a group, create a squad, get guys around you, and then to open up and learn things and realize there's more to learn, there's more to help you grow. Plus, you're not alone. That's the biggest thing most men need to hear nowadays is you're not alone. So many of us after high school, after college, after the military, we get into our relationships, we get into our work, and it all we basically get isolated into the family bubble, and then we don't have a crew of guys around us, we don't have our teammates, we don't have our soldiers with us, and then we just get more and more isolated, and that starts to take us out. I mean, as strong as granite is, that little drop of water will wear you out if you don't have a way of dealing with it.
Yeah. Generally speaking, we might, even if you're an introverted guy, the fullness of your masculinity doesn't come in the home. It doesn't. It just doesn't. We, for whatever reason, in whatever ways, man, we thrive when we're more outside of the home than in. Even if we're in the home, a lot of us got hobbies and habits, whether it's video gaming, whether it's going on the garage and working on stuff, or tinkering with stuff, or fixing stuff, or whatever it is. So a lot of us, don't find that just the everything we need in the home itself. But but at the same time, we got to be able to have safe spaces in our homes. And I don't know if we all do have safe spaces in our homes. I don't know if the home is always safe. If a guy has to sit in the car before he walks in the door, because he's got whole new battles to fight when he walks in the door, different than the battles he had to fight outside. Um, maybe that's one of them things that it's like, nah, I'm just gonna
Mm.
sit here for a minute and thanks, but no thanks. And so maybe we need to do it better as a culture in making our homes safer places.
Well, that's such a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, especially for Men's Health Month and Men's Mental Health Month and just Men's Health Month in general. Is that ladies, stop listening to your girlfriends, stop listening to the feminist narrative. Men do not want a challenge at home. They don't want some, ball buster, some masculine lady at the house. They want you to be their peace. They want you to be soft and feminine and nurturing and supportive. And if you're not those things, then he has to make adjustments. And most of the time, especially in most of the households we see nowadays where the men are struggling, they don't feel safe, he has to make those adjustments and he's not going to tell you about it. He's going to do what he thinks he needs to do to maintain and to keep providing and keep being the best version he can for you and for the family. But if you're not a peaceful person in the home, if you're not bringing peace to him in the home, he's got to find that elsewhere. And if he doesn't have a way to tell you about that, then there's going to be this slow decline. You can only do that for so long, especially when the place you're supposed to go home, your sanctuary, is not peaceful. You feel like there's going to be a battle and a fight every time. It wears a man down because he's got to go out and fight all these battles every day just to provide. He's got to go out and try to make money and get you all the things you want, provide for the kids, get them in the right school, provide for the vacation, X, Y, and Z to be the best version he can be for you. But then he doesn't get that reciprocal when he gets home. He doesn't get that recharge when he gets home. So a lot of men are just walking around tired. They're living off of caffeine and beer. They're just trying to get up in the morning and caffeinate and then have some beers and numb out or drinks or whatever in the evening and then get up and do it all over again. And I don't care who you are, that wear you out.
Mhm. That's why men find outlets. That's why men find places to escape. You would need to escape something that wasn't to some degree a prison. I mean, that sounds kind of hard,
Mhm.
but when I say by prison, I mean some place that is not safe. And safety in certain ways, in ways that you wouldn't think of, is a very high priority for men. Safety being peace at home, specifically in this case. And if she's not creating peace in the home, then he doesn't have peace in the home. And a lot of times that opens the door for him to go find peace elsewhere. You see, for men, conflict can mean death. For women, that's not necessarily the case. We know that if I get in conflict with you, you're strong enough to snap my neck as a man, right? I mean, and so that's not the same in a women's world. So conflict to her is not dangerous, and so men tend to, believe it or not, shy away from conflict because of that. Women tend to not shy away from conflict because of that. And
Yeah.
so when you walk in the door and she doesn't see conflict as, okay, maybe I need to give this fool time to decompress because he might snap up in this joint. She just sees, hey, I got all these burdens. I need to bring them to you. Let's talk it out. Let's work it out. Let's figure it out. Let's get this. Let's get that. Here's my honey-do list, and I got some stuff for you to blah 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 blah. She wants to unload all that kind of stuff, and he's like, you want to unload on me, but you don't know that my dump truck is already full mentally.
Mhm.
And if I don't have space, then it's really hard for me to have grace.
Yep.
It's really hard for me to operate in the full capacity that you want me to be able to operate in.
That's a great point. I think ladies need to understand, especially with their men. For us men, conflict can lead to death. I mean, there like I talked about, there's that fine line, and you cross that line, you don't know, you might not come back from that. But for ladies, because of how most men have been taught and because of how they've been nurtured and caretaked and everything else, for them, conflict is drama, it's excitement, it's entertainment. And it's just not the same for men. And so a lot of times when you ladies assume your man is weak because he's not stepping up to confront you, or he's not playing into the conflict, he's not getting into the argument with you, it's because he doesn't want to, because he's either tired, he's wore out, or also he also believes that if that goes that way, it's one of those things I learned very very young on, as a teenager, that fighting, nobody ever wins fighting. And a lot of times, if you did win, you still didn't win because that guy might, depending on if he's jealous or, he's butt hurt, he could come back now with a stick or a rock or a gun or a knife. So I mean, just you may have won the fist fight, but you never know what's going to happen afterwards. So it's a zero sum game. You're never going to win, and so we tend to avoid that. And in a lot of ways, because you don't have that repercussion, you don't have that sense of danger or finality when it comes to conflict, you assume that a man's backing away from you is his weakness. No, that's him not wanting to get into it because in his mind, conflict can lead to a certain circumstance. And you just don't have that experience. That's why I tend to enjoy a lot of ladies who get into martial arts, who have some, physical fighting background or something like that, because then they understand. One, they understand the physical strength of a man. They understand the finality of violence, and they understand what it takes to be peaceful. Most men are peaceful not because they're weak, but because they know the extent the violence can go. They know what can happen. And if we've been, most of us have been in the military or, we've had some sort of background, we've had friends die. We've had people taken out because of stupidity or things that just got out of hand. Started off with a little argument. Oh, you stepped on my foot. And then next thing you know, somebody's dead. That's finality. That's the end of somebody's life. And we know that. So don't assume just because he's backing down or suing for peace that he's weak. He's actually taking the high road and actually it takes more strength to not react and not respond in a violent way, to not play that game, but to take the high road.
Sometimes he could avoid difficult topics or difficult conversations because of the same thing you just talked about. Sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying avoidance is recommended all the time or as a coping mechanism, but sometimes if he's not in the right place, it's not a good time. Like it's just not a good time. How often has a man brought up something or agreed to sit down and talk about something, and then he has to hear about that thing over and over and over again indefinitely for forever in the future? Like,
Forever and ever. Amen.
like how long are we going to keep talking about this thing? How long are you going to keep bringing that until I'm done? And then the next time it's like, I thought you was done last time. Nope, I'm not done. I mean, these are the experiences that man has. So I suggest, what if we normalize learning how to interact and to resolve conflict, if you will, with men? What if we normalize in the household um, his peace or being able to connect with the man in the household? How about we normalize that? It's pretty normal and normal expectation for men to read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, or for men to read love languages and all these other kind of things to connect to the feminine. But what if we learned as a culture? What if we normalized as a culture figuring out how to connect to men, how to relate, to men in the household? What if we got the book that you just referenced from Brene Brown? What if we actually put some time into how can I connect with the man, young or old? Because we're talking the father and the son in the household. Because to some degree, it's the same guy, just 20 or 30 years difference, right? And so, what if we learn, or what if we normalize, the feminine doing their best or putting in extra work to learn how to relate to the masculine now? So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, I miss the good old days back when grandma and mom would teach the daughters, how to treat men and how to take care of them, because what we get is a lot of reactionary now and it's not peaceful. And if ladies would just learn how easy men are to take care of, let him play the video game, let him decompress, be his peace. And as soon as he's decompressed and recharged and rested, he's going to feel so loving and so thankful. He's going to get up and do that honey-do list. He's going to get up and do those things you want him to do. But the nagging and the judgment and the criticism doesn't do anything but make him not want to do those things. And so just it's scientific method. Figure out what works. And if what you're doing isn't working, it's time to find a new method. And we're trying to tell you, be his peace, be his cheerleader. And then he will be able to do all those things, and he will want to do all those things that you want him to do. But the critiquing and the harping on and the nagging just isn't working. And speaking of nagging, it's time for us to take that last break. We're the Mad Men of Masculinity. This is KLDC, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, the conversation is, we unexpected. We never script any of these things, and so to the conversation that kind of go on the angle of a man finding peace in the home. It might seem counterintuitive to a lot of women that listen. Or wait a minute, this is Men's Mental Health Month. Why are y'all talking to us so much? Well, it's
You don't know how
because
much you affect men's mental health.
that's because you have a huge impact. Because a man in love ain't trying to hurt nobody. A man in love
Mm,
ain't trying to go nowhere and shoot up the joint. A man in love ain't trying to be out here in the world, robbing banks and all that kind of stuff. A man with oxytocin flowing in his brain, man, that dude is the greatest guy to be around, man. I mean,
that's a happy
yeah.
dude.
I mean, it's men's mental health is not the responsibility of women. In other words, women are not the problem, but women are absolutely part of the solution. And
You're a
so,
factor.
women have you all in your femininity have the power to change the world, to make it
Mm,
beautiful. I mean, you are the flower that sprouts out of the ground and makes the poppy field look phenomenal. I mean,
mm.
you are the rose bush. I mean, even with your thorns, and in the wintertime, that rose bush don't look as pretty as it does in the spring and the summer because it blossoms. And when you blossom, you provide peace, you provide aroma, fragrance, you provide all those things that a otherwise dark, dangerous, masculine world needs.
Yeah, and I know this is break time, but we might will bring this back up on air. But ladies,
Mhm.
one of the reasons we're bringing you up is because you have such an impact on men's mental health, and if you learn these skills, and they're not really hard, it's just you learn these little skills, how to be his peace and his cheerleader, and provide him that space that he needs to recharge. There are so many men out in the world today who are starving for that. Just if you were actually loyal and trustworthy and kind and peaceful and nurturing and loving, you can have any man you want almost nowadays.
Mm.
Because there's such a lack of that. We get such the opposite. It's all negativity and feminist narrative, and down with the patriarchy and all this anti-man stuff. And so if you're just nice, just be nice to a guy and see what he'll do for you. We're dogs. We're loyal. We're loving. We want to play. We like snacks, rubber butts. We're good.
Mhm.
You want to
Yeah,
bring it back?
no doubt, man. Yeah, we're back.
Yes, we're back.
Man, I'm telling you, sometimes we get off on a tangent with some of our
Tangent.
breaks. If you haven't seen the YouTube clips where we just flow
We
through,
don't
we don't
edit.
take the break like we do on the radio. We don't edit. I mean, you should check out YouTube. You should check out the Facebook streams because man, we get off on some tangents and you know
They're good usually. They're
it is
entertaining.
good stuff, man. It is good stuff. Women have a huge part in men's mental health, and women don't really understand how powerful femininity is. I mean, how
Especially to
truly
men.
powerful femininity is in the world, let alone to men. And so that the movement in the world that wants to make y'all more masculine is really taking away your power. It's not powerful to be masculine for a woman that should be feminine. Like you have so much power to change the world, to make the world a better place, to make your man a better man. It's his responsibility to be the best man that he can be, but at the same time, your wings can make him fly higher. I mean, it's just one of those things that, yeah. I mean, the two things don't seem to be related: men's mental health and the women in their life. But man, they are. You can't break the tie between those two concepts.
Yeah, we hear it all the time. Behind every great man is a great woman, but that woman tends to be feminine, nurturing, caring. When nowadays the narrative of great woman is boss babe and alpha babe and all this masculine stuff, and that's another reason men are having issues with their mental health, their physical health, their financial health, every other kind of health. And so we're talking men's mental health, and I think on this last segment we'll get into some of the pillars of men's mental health. But ladies, I know you like to watch. I know you want to learn how to make your man happier, to find a healthy, happy man. This is how you do it, and realize your power. You can make that man a superstar, a superhero, or you can tear him down. and it all depends on how you treat him and how you act towards him in the relationship. So if you learn how to be his peace, his cheerleader, his nurturer, all those things, then you'll get the man you want. But this alpha boss babe masculinization is not working. It's not working for you. It's not working for him.
You ain't got to worry about the trash being taken out. You ain't got to worry about, the gas being pumped for you. You ain't got to worry about the spider being killed. You ain't got to worry about none of that kind of stuff when your man is in love and when he has peace in his home. When he has peace in his home, he's going to make sure that the home is taken care of in every way possible. And so ain't no man trying to self-cancel when he's in love. That you ain't gonna happen, dude. Ain't no guy trying to take himself out when he's in love, when he got peace in the home. You crazy? That just don't happen, man.
No, and that's like for men's mental health, and one of the reasons we keep harping on, ladies. I mean, I spoke about it on the break, and we'll bring it up again now because I think you need to hear it. There's there's so many men out there starving for feminine, nurturing, caring women, nice women, that if you learn those skills and stop listening to the feminist narrative of being a boss babe and masculine, you will have your pick of most men. Because I mean, most of us are just starving for a lady to be nice to us and to be nurturing and to care about what we care about, to care about our feelings and care about the fact that we want to care for them. It seems like we get this expectation of caring for them and doing what they want without any reciprocation. And that's why men are struggling. And for most men, what they need support with, and we'll get into the 4 pillars that I think I wanted to get into earlier for men's mental health: self-respect, self-love, purpose, and self-discipline are the pillars that will make a man the strongest version of himself. And all you have to do as his partner, as his woman, is to not knock down his self-image, his self-love, his self-respect, because it's really easy for men to have self-respect when his woman respects him. But if you're just tearing him down, being judgmental and disrespecting him all the time, it's really hard for him to maintain his self-respect. Even if he has purpose, even if he has discipline, you're just chipping away at him. But if he has those things and you support those things, he's going to be the best version of himself. He's going to be the man you want him to be in the first place.
Yeah, you talk about that word respect, and the common narrative is I respect him when he acts respectable. And the equivalent to that is a man saying, I'll love her when she acts lovable. And that, the second one of those is, it just sounds disgusting coming out, right? I mean, and so, again, Love and Respect is a great book, Emerson Eggerichs. I mean, all these kind of concepts, man, are things that are out there that we need to make normal in our culture. We need to make men talking to each other, hanging out with each other, being around each other. We need to make that normal. We need to make normal the people in the household of a man learning on their own and doing research and all that kind of stuff and how to connect to the man in the household. And we need to make normal peace in a household, peaceful households, man. If your household, if your home is not peaceful, then it's not a home. It's just another workplace. It's just another battlefield. And I'm telling you, I mean, and we need to normalize. We need to normalize men not only just getting around other men, but getting in healthy places where they can express themselves, where they can have it come out in healthy ways, so that it doesn't implode in unhealthy ways, like that Ocean Gate sub. I mean, where the pressure on the outside becomes too much, and the shell, this thing we call a body, can't take it anymore, and it just implodes. We got to be able as men to reach out and to connect and to put our mask on first and to make sure that we take care of this one so that this one can take care of all of them. But as we try to take care of all of them without taking care of this one, then at some point, you're going to be trying to go down to see the Titanic and never come back up.
Yeah. And the trippy thing is it just takes a little hole, just takes a little flaw. And when that pressure builds, you implode. And that's why we say so much that we need a supportive, loving, feminine woman in our lives to make us the strongest version. Because all that criticism and nagging and stuff, that's what creates that little hole that causes the implosion. And a lot of the issues in marriage come from not having peace, come from not knowing how to communicate beneficially or successfully or even kindly to each other. It's always fighting and nagging and whatnot. And each one of those things tends to create little holes and little dings, and those little dings tend to cause the ship to sink. And so this is Men's Mental Health Month, and we spend a lot of time talking about how ladies can be the best partner for their men. But we're not talking about that selfishly, because ladies, you want a healthy man. You want him to be the best version he can be for you. And so there's a role you play. And men, when you're working on your self-respect, when you're working on your self-love and your purpose and your self-discipline, make sure one of those things that you're working on and you're paying attention to is the woman you have in your life and the men you have in your life. We just did the discipline episode. Make sure if you're not where you want to be, get around guys who are where you want to be. Get around those who have up-leveled and are on the level you want to go to, and make sure your woman's on board with that. I've seen too many relationships fail because one partner wants to better themselves and the other one wants to stay where they're at. And it never works. So make sure while you're doing those things, you bring somebody along with you who's supportive and loving and who wants the same things that you do. Because as you try to level up, she's either going to be your rocket ship or she's going to be the crab holding you down, the anchor in the bucket. You got to make sure while you're taking care of yourself and you're doing all those things and putting your mask on first to take care of those people around you, you have somebody who's supportive enough that will be on the same team with you.
And thank that man. Thank him for who he is, for what he is. Thank him when he does things that, when he goes to the gym. Thank him for self-care. Thank him for going out on a beautiful morning and playing golf. I mean, most men are better after a round of golf than they were before a round of golf. Prime
Most.
example, that's just one example in most men. I'm talking about better mentally. Your game
Yeah.
ain't necessarily better, but you just feel better. I mean, most people in general, but especially most men, since we're talking about men, feel better coming out of the gym than they do when they go into the gym. It's not the same. That you can't say the same about a bar. You can't say the same about a strip club. You can't say the same about a lot of other places. But if a guy is doing the right things, thank him, encourage him, support him, and all those kinds of things. And that's whether you're male or female. If you're a guy and you know a guy that's doing the right things, encourage him, support him. That's one of the things men love affirmation. You can get paid millions of dollars, but they still have cheerleaders on the sidelines cheering them on, even though they got 70, 80, 100,000 fans in the stands. I mean, all those kind of things are important to men's mental health.
Yeah, ladies, with the feminist movement, you've been trying to you seem to think your perfect partner, your perfect man is a woman in a man's body, and that's not true because we're not women. And so stop trying to make us into women and stop trying to think that we are women. Men are simple. We're dogs. If you love animals, if you love dogs, and you know how to take care of us. Positive reinforcement. Tell us what you like that we're doing. We'll do more of that. Give us treats, rub our bellies, let us go out and play. It's really that simple. But when you keep trying to make men into women and you think that we do the same things and we're conniving and when we say something, we mean something else. No, men are pretty simple. When we say I'm hungry, I'm hungry. When we ask you if you want something to eat, we ask you if you want something to eat. All of these things that tend to get so convoluted and complicated in relationships don't have to be that way. You just have to realize that a man is a man. He's not a woman. He doesn't think the way you do. He's not run by emotions. He's very logical, linear, and he's simple. He wants to be fed. He wants to be loved. He wants to play. If you help him with those things, he'll be the best version. He'll be the man you want him to be.
Mhm. It's not rocket science, man. It is not rocket science at all. But men, we love y'all. We do what we do for y'all and because of y'all. Sometimes we speak to men, sometimes we speak for men. I think this is one of those opportunities where where we've spoken to and for men today. If you're listening to this and you're a woman, your man probably wanted you to hear this. I mean, it just is what it is. And if there's a guy listening to this, you know, watch it, start watching it when you're sitting next to her on the couch and she'll want to know what you're looking at. And then you can say, oh, check this out. These two guys are talking about some stuff. You should check it out. And then forward it, hit share, all that kind of stuff. But like and subscribe, you guys. And we're just out here trying to do the right thing, man.
Yeah. And if you're in the Front Range, in the Mountain Corridor, if you're in Colorado, mark your calendars, August 23rd. Men come out. Ladies, if you want your man to be better, buy him a ticket, send him. You can also, if you got a teenage son, 13 to 18, he can come as well, so they can have a male bonding moment with father and son, and they can learn a lot and bond a lot. But send them to the Men's Summit, Parker, Colorado, the schoolhouse, August 23rd, 8 to 5. You can get the tickets at bmn.org/summit. There's testimonials on there, so you can hear about what you're getting into. And until next time, we are the Madmen. We love you, and we are out.